boy. The price of freedom is steep. Embrace your dreams. And whatever happens, protect your honor. A soldier! Come and get it! 自由の代償は高いぜ。どんな時でもソルジャーの誇りは離すな。
What's the biz, everybody? It's your boy Vaker Maker, aka D Ansley, and I'm here to give you a true shit review. So, in 2007, Square Enix had released a game made exclusively for the PlayStation Portable called Crisis Core FFVII, which is a prequel to the 1997 video game Final Fantasy VII, and it's part of the meta series compilation of Final Fantasy VII. Since this is a prequel, the main character of the game isn't Cloud Strife, but instead Zack Fair, a character who had a small screen time in FF7. In fact, he's rarely mentioned and only appears late in the story via flashbacks. Despite this, he is indeed a crucial part of the game's story, as Cloud Strife, the main character, unknowingly confused parts of his own past with Zack's following traumatic events involving the two and Sephiroth. Zack died in the weeks leading up to the opening of Final Fantasy VII to protect Cloud from Shinra's army after they had escaped from imprisonment. A mentally shaken Cloud's memory of the events were heavily affected, and he forgot Zack entirely. Zack was not originally a part of Final Fantasy VII's story during development, but the scenario writer Najima wanted to bring a sense of mystery to the title and created the character to help complicate Cloud's backstory. He was designed by TETSUYA NOMURA, and his last name is derived from fair weather, to contrast with Cloud's last name, Strife. With Zack's conceptual backstory in place for Final Fantasy VII, Crisis Core was made to expand on Zack's backstory. The game's storyline takes the player from the war between the mega corporation Shinra and the people of Wutai to the events in Nibelheim, ending just before the beginning of the Final Fantasy VII. While the game did receive mostly a positive reception during its initial release, over time it has been heavily criticized for its combat system and its dialogue and some of its plot points. Ever since the game's release, Zack has become one of the most popular characters in the Final Fantasy VII franchise. In IGN's 2008 list of Final Fantasy VII top 10 characters list, Zack made the sixth place, with IGN's Dave Smith noting that his checkout scene in Crisis Core is just about as epic as it gets in video games, while Game Raiders Jim Sterling found Zack to be one of video games' most sexually appealing male characters due to his personality and look. A remaster of the game, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, was released on December 13th, 2022. Released on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Windows, Xbox One, and the Xbox Series X/S. I never got to play the PSP game, but I did watch all the cutscenes on YouTube, so I was excited for the remaster's announcement, because this would be a great chance to play a version of it. So on January the 11th, I had finished playing it. Despite this, I haven't actually given my thoughts on the game until now. While Reunion is technically a remaster, it sort of feels like a remake in a sense, because it features an updated combat system that is a combination of the original battle system and something close to the one featured in the Final Fantasy VII Remake. At first, the gameplay did feel a bit repetitive during the first two chapters. It was once it started adding more mechanics as well as gaining more materia that I was actually starting to have more fun. I really did enjoy the feature that allows you to fuse the materia to make an even more powerful materia. In this game, I probably spammed the crap out of magic compared to what I did in the remake. And the combat gets even better once Zack does eventually wield the Buster Sword. The Buster Sword stance mechanic functions very much like the Punisher mode for Remake, but it's still not the same. You know what I mean? I didn't complete all the side quests / missions though. Despite that, I played enough for my Zack to be OP as fuck when playing in the main story, because of so many of the side quests I did. I leveled up and became too strong for the fights that were supposed to be difficult, like Sephiroth and Genesis. Still, I still had a fun time. While Square expanded new elements from the story of Remake, Reunion was made to come across as faithful as possible to the original game, down to even the dialogue, which has been seen as either a blessing or a curse depending on who you're talking to. Speaking of which, I will admit, while I do think the voice acting here, for the most part, is definitely superior to the one of the original Crisis Core game, and I mean that with no disrespect, by the way, I do think the decision to stay 100% faithful in terms of the original script was a bit of a misstep. Because let's be real here. As Maximilian Dude has stated multiple times in his videos / Twitch streams, the dialogue from the PSP game has become very dated to the point that sometimes the serious moments become a bit cheesy due to its hammy script. It's a total contrast from the way the FF7 Remake's dialogue was handled. Though for me, it does have its charm, like whenever Zack is interacting with Aerith. Still, I would have preferred that they had just deviated a bit from the original lines. Aside from the gameplay, the graphics as well as the new character models are the best thing to come from this. Despite it being a remaster at its core, the devs decided to to entirely rebuilt the game to look visually similar to the FF7 remake. While the graphics are not as polished as remakes, it's definitely an improvement over the PSP version, especially during the scenes taking place in the Mako reactor during the Nibelheim incident. The lighting in those particular scenes are absolutely amazing. While the areas definitely look better as well, they still feel hollow, reminding me that this was originally a PSP game, so it doesn't give you room to really explore. Another thing worth mentioning is that pretty much the whole English voice cast from the PSP game was replaced by completely new actors to the FF7 franchise, or actors who previously worked on FF7 Remake, like for instance Brianna White as Aerith Gainsborough, Cody Christian as Cloud Strife, and Caleb Pierce as Zach Fair. Speaking of Caleb Pierce, out of all the new voice actors introduced back in Remake, he's been criticized the most, and especially during the months leading up to Reunion's release. And I'll admit, I was one of the many that didn't think he was necessarily right for the role. I just felt like his voice performance from FF7 Remake was flat compared to Rick Gomez's performance, since his scenes in Remake were basically recreating both scenes and dialogue from Crisis Core.
We drag our asses all this way. This is the welcome we get. Boy, oh boy. The price of freedom is steep. Embrace your dreams. And whatever happens, protect your honor. As a soldier! Come and get it!
Even the trailers for Reunion didn't really do much for me to change my mind. But to be fair, in the short scene at the end of the FF7 remake DLC, he did sound better than he did in the base game.
It's been a while, huh? Long time no see. How you been? Listen. Hey. I'm back.
However, once I actually played the game, he didn't sound all that bad. In fact, the delivery for the most part was different from how they sounded in the trailers, which tends to be the case with trailers these days, regardless of whether you're talking about the video games or movies in general. For me, it was when Zack, the character, started to mature both physically and mentally, when I feel Caleb Pierce finally got the character right and gave a really solid performance, in my opinion. It's really in Zack's more serious moments where I feel he really excels at. Overall, I'd say he did good. Though I still prefer Rick Gomez as Zack.
Boy, oh boy. The price of freedom is steep. Embrace your dreams. And whatever happens, protect your honor. As Bowser! Come and get it!
And although I don't mind Tyler Hoechling's, I can't pronounce his last name, his Sephiroth, I do miss George Newburn's, whose voice I constantly think of when I think of Sephiroth. The dude was perfect for the role. To Tyler Hoechling's credit, I think he really sold the stoic, monotoned hero Sephiroth was doing most of Crisis Core. Having relived the cutscenes, I still think Zack Fair made for a cool protagonist that's different from Cloud Strife in both gameplay and character-wise. While I do enjoy the moments of Angel being Zack's mentor, as for the character himself along with his character arc, it just kind of felt flat, and we could have done a lot more with him, as well as the main antagonist of the game, Genesis. Speaking of Genesis, he's without a doubt the most polarizing character introduced in the Crisis Core story, and honestly, I can see why. I can honestly see how his constant need to quote a love list would annoy people. Again, I wish the story could have really dove deep into his into his character, instead of just the bare medium of which is what we got. Honestly, for me, his best scenes were the ones where he was sparring with Sephiroth. At least we got the idea that while he was Sephiroth's friend, he still was envious of Sephi's popularity. I wish we could have gotten more deeper with that whole plot point.
Into battle. One is captured. One flies away. The one that is left becomes a hero.
A common story.
If we were to enact it, would I be the one to play the hero, or would you?
It's all yours.
Indeed. After all, your glory should have been mine.
How petty.
In hindsight, perhaps. Now what I want most is the gift of the goddess.
Speaking of which, that whole cutscene of Genesis, Sephiroth, and Angel sparring together is still my favorite scene in the whole game. With the game's ending being my second favorite, which by the way still hits hard.
My honor. My dreams. They're yours now. I'm here living legacy.
So prior to playing Reunion, I was curious if it would be just a straight up remaster, or will it get the same alternate ending the FF7 Remake gave us involving Zack. There was a lot of people theorizing that too, and spoiler alert, the devs kept to their word and they didn't change anything story-wise. Zack still dies, but it does make me wonder, since they decided to release this prior to FF7 Rebirth, the devs have had to realize that they basically just spoiled some of the biggest plot points of the OG FF7 by re-releasing its prequel. So that tells me that going forward, while we might get a lot of the same story beats as the 1997 PS1 video game, such as going to the Cosmo Cannon and meeting Sid at the Rocket Town, but plot points like the truth behind the Nibelheim incident or Cloud not being a former soldier member won't be plot twists anymore. Instead, the devs are probably coming up with new plot twists for this remake trilogy they're working on. So, in a sense, we are getting the same story, or at least the same premise, but not really. It's just one of the many reasons why I think we can't just look at this as a simple remake anymore, but as a reboot / sequel. A lot of the same events in the story might still happen, but under different contexts. It's already been confirmed by Square themselves that we will be visiting familiar areas, just not necessarily in the same order. So that's something to keep in mind. While some like me are choosing to be optimistic by seeing this new direction Square is taking this project as a fresh way of retelling the FF7 story for modern audiences, others aren't so optimistic and are worried that this will only hurt or possibly tarnish the legacy of a game that they grew up loving. And then there are some that are just curious to see how badly Square will screw things up. Hey, I'll admit it. Given Square Enix's track record as of late, this could go either way. But again, I'm choosing to be optimistic here and hope for the best. Until then, all we got is speculations and theories to go off of right now, till the release of Rebirth and its eventual sequel to see how things play out. One of the biggest theories and speculations for Rebirth involves Zack and what his role will be going forward in this new story, as well as the debates going on whether or not he should if he should even play an active role in it. In the meantime, I'm glad we got Reunion to keep us busy. It has even got me more hyped to see what happens and what new purpose Zack's character, for his character. For many, his story has already been completed. So what else is left other than just simple fan service? Again, we're just gonna have to wait and see. Now, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more videos like these, and most importantly, hit that notification bell if you want to be notified whenever I do post these videos. Now, with that said, stay beast.
Hey, would you say I became a hero?